I welcome the dignitaries, Chancellor Professor R.A. Mashelkar, Chief Guest of today's function, Professor M.M. Sharma, Professor S.K.B. or Samir K. Brahmachari, the Acting Director of ACSIR and the Associate Director of ACSIR. I request the dignitaries to adorn the dais. Chief Guest of today's function, Professor M.M. Sharma, Professor Samir K. Brahmachari, former DG CSIR, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, Chancellor of Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research or ACSIR, Professor Nagesha Iyer, Acting Director ACSIR, Professor Kunal Ray, Associate Director ACSIR, distinguished dignitaries, special invitees, students, proud parents, staffs of CSIR, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon to one and all. I am Bharti Priya, and on behalf of ACSIR, I extend a pleasant welcome to all of you to the third convocation of ACSIR. We shall begin the function with an invocation. I request the students of ACSIR of this campus to render the invocation, and may I request all of you to please rise. Thank you. I now request the Chancellor to kindly declare the convocation open.
I declare the convocation open.
Thank you, sir. Today, we are celebrating the third convocation and felicitation of Professor ceremony of ACSIR. The graduation ceremony is a much awaited event of every student's life, as it gives the returns of the efforts put in by them throughout their academic endeavor. It gives a pleasure of achievement and a sense of responsibility towards fulfilling further commitments. Not just for the students, the 86 students who are graduating today are also making this academy a successful, research-propelled, technology-enabled platform for higher education. To extend our heartfelt welcome to all of you to this historic ceremony, may I now invite the Acting Director of ACSIR, Professor Nagesha Iyer, to address.
Chief guest of today's function, respected Professor M.M. Sharma, our beloved and respected Chancellor, Professor Mashelkar, Professor Samir Brahmachari, former DG CSIR, members of the BOG and Senate, former directors of CSIR labs, my CSIR colleagues, graduating students, proud parents, friends from the media, and colleagues watching through the webcast across India, ladies and gentlemen, a very good afternoon. We are fortunate and also privileged to have amongst us today Professor M.M. Sharma, the proud recipient of Padma Awards, doyen of Chemical Sciences and Engineering, internationally well-known and eminent scientist, and a brilliant teacher. My dear colleagues, let us give Professor Sharma a floral welcome. Sir, I am indeed grateful to you on behalf of all for having accepted to be the chief guest at the last minute at this function. It is also my proud privilege to extend a warm welcome to our guiding force and a visionary, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, Chancellor of ACSIR. I deem it also an honor to welcome Professor Samir K. Brahmachari, the architect of ACSIR and a great thinker. We have today with us a galaxy of distinguished former colleagues of CSIR, professionals, scientists, and other distinguished personalities. I wholeheartedly welcome all of them. Ladies and gentlemen, all invitees and colleagues watching this webcast, it gives me great pleasure in welcoming you all to this third convocation of ACSIR. I congratulate the students who are going to be graduating today and their parents. ACSIR is a world-class institution functioning through 38 CSIR laboratories along with its 6 units and 39 extension centers across India. The mission of the Academy is to create highest quality personnel with cross-disciplinary knowledge, aiming to provide leaders in the field of science and technology. The motto of ACSIR has been to learn, earn, and lead India through its bright young minds. During the first convocation in 2009, 52 MTech students from 8 CSIR labs with 9 areas of specialization received their degrees. In 2010, 72 MTech students received their degrees from 11 laboratories with 11 areas of specialization. And in today's convocation, we have 81 MTech students from 11 laboratories and 11 areas of specialization. In addition, it is for the first time in ACSIR that PhD in science degree is being conferred on 5 students. Ladies and gentlemen, I deem it an honor to welcome all of you to this Convocation Day function. Thanking you once again. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dear graduates, the moment you have been waiting for has finally come. As an ACSIR student myself, I know that you entered into this academy facing intense competition. You pursued your academic career with great dedication, striving hard to meet its high standards. Today, you earned your degrees. It is a moment of pride for you as much as it is for your parents and faculty. Without further ado, may I now request the Director and Associate Director of ACSIR to admit these successful candidates to the MTech and PhD degrees. Ladies and gentlemen, please don't hold back your applauses for our young graduates.
Let the candidates for the MTech degree of ACSIR from the different programs be proposed for the award of the degree.
Sir, I declare the candidates who have satisfied the requirements for the MTech degree are considered worthy of receiving the same. I recommend that the successful students be admitted to the said degree and be handed over the degree by the Chancellor. I request the students whose names are being read to come and receive their degrees from the Chancellor. First, from CSIR CBRI in the area of Engineering of Infrastructure and Disaster Mitigation, Ms. Aishwarya. Mr. Mohammed Yusuf. Mr. Venkatesh from CSIR CD, later in Advanced Electronic System. Ms. Som Shukla Maiti. From the same lab in Advanced Semiconductor Electronic, Mr. Yusuf Anand Varshney. Mr. Saroj Kumar Kanta Patra. Mr. Ranjan Kumar Moria. From CSIR CMERI Mechatronics, Ms. Manavi Malik. Ms. Anisa Che Bolu. Mr. Denis Babu. Mr. Prasoon Mishra. Next from CSIR CRRI in Engineering of Infrastructure and Disaster Mitigation, Mr. Thondepu Anil Pradyumna. Miss M. Surya. Miss Sarada Pulugupta. Mr. Gautam Raj. Mr. M.J. Adaikala Raja. From CSIO in Advanced Instrumentation and Engineering, Mr. Saurabh Kumar. From CSR IMMT in Materials Resource Engineering, Mr. Deepak Naik. Next, Mr. Nigamananda Ray. Miss Anita Panda. Then from CSR NCL in Advanced Modeling and Simulation, Chemical Engineering and Science, Mr. S. Swaminathan. From CSIR NIRI in the area of Environmental System and System Engineering and Modeling, Ms. Shivangi Nigam. Ms. Shilpa Kumari. Then from CSIR NPL in Advanced Material Physics and Engineering, Miss Indu Elizabeth. Mr. Anuj Krishna. Mr. Vati Konda Bharat.
Congrats.
Miss Deepika Yadav. Mr. Dibyajyoti Mohanty, Mr. Achu Chandran, Mr. Ashwin, from CSIR ACRC in Engineering of Structures, Ms. K. Bala Monika, Mr. Abhishek Kumar, Ms. Smriti Raj, Ms. A. Thirumalai Selvi, and the last attending candidate, Ms. J. Pramita. Thank you. You can take your seat, sir. So now, sir, the following 46 candidates of MTech program are not present here today to receive the degree. I recommend that these successful candidates, each having satisfied the requirements of the degree, is considered worthy of it, may be admitted to the MTech degree in absentia. The names of the successful candidates receiving the degree in absentia are: from CSIR CBRI, Ms. Riya Bhaumik, Mr. Devdatta Ghosh, Mr. Muhammad Shuhaib Ahmad, Mr. Kaushik Pandit, Ms. Monalisa Behra. Then from CSIR Siri, Mr. Rishi Ranjan, Mr. Navjot Kumar. From the same lab also Mr. Amit Kumar, Mr. Ayon Roy Chaudhary, Mr. Pushpendra Dwivedi, Mr. Dasari Bala Shekhar, Mr. Bhabit Kaushik, Mr. Ashish Kumar Singh, Mr. Ram Prakash Lamba, Mr. Minaz Ahmad, Mr. Shailendra Chaudhary, Mr. Arpit Raj, Ms. Rupa Shah, Mr. Mupala Prudhvi Raj, Mr. Mahesh Singh Bisht. From CSIR CMERI, Mr. Spandan Roy, Ms. Rukmini Roy, Mr. Shishir Kumar Singh, Ms. Yosna Pandey. From CSIR CRRI, Mr. Shahbaz Khan. From CSIR CSIO, Mr. Manjit Singh, Mr. Suryakant Gautam, Mr. Jaswant Singh, Mr. Suman Tiwari, Mr. Ranjan Kumar Jha, Mr. Amit Gupta, Mr. Vinod Parmar, Ms. Riti Kalra. From CSIR IMMT, Mr. Satyajit Sarkar, Mr. Biplab Ghosh, Mr. Jitendra Kumar Sarangi, Mr. Rahul Mohanty. Then from CSIR NCL, Mr. Sanjeev Mishra, Ms. Pardhi Goel, Mr. Vikesh Singh Baghel, Ms. Asthi Hamid, Mr. Niraj Kumar Nayan, Mr. Saprativo Basu, Mr. Shoryo Bonik, Mr. Shubhankar Datta, and the last one is from CSIR Niri, Mr. Rajesh Shenoy. Sir, the following 5 candidates of the PhD program of ACSIR who are not present here today, I recommend that each of them, having satisfied the requirements of the degree, is considered worthy of it, may be admitted to the PhD degree in absentia. The name of the successful candidates receiving the PhD degree in absentia are Mr. Tanveer Ahmad of CSIR IGIB, Mr. Sukhdev Saha of CSIR CSM CRI, Ms. K. R. Tushara of CSIR NCL, Ms. Gulshan Singh of CSR IITR, Mr. Abdul Malik of CSIR CDRI. All the recipients of the degree may please rise.
By virtue of the authority vested in me as Chairman of the Senate of the Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, I do hereby admit each of these 81 candidates to the MTech degree and 5 students to the PhD degree, and charge each of them to prove worthy of the same throughout their lives.
All recipients of the degree, please repeat after me in taking the oath. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityur Ma Amritangamaya Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Thank you, sir. Hearty congratulations, graduates. Not every day we get the opportunity to listen to the words of a seasoned scholar. We are privileged to have one such distinguished chief guest amongst us today. Though he hardly needs any introduction, it is our pleasant duty to do so. May I now request Professor Nagesha Iyer to formally introduce our chief guest to the august audience.
Chief guest of the function and dignitaries on the dais. As said, Professor Sharma doesn't need any introduction. Nevertheless, for the young ones, I would like to read some of his achievements in just short, brief time. Professor M.M. Sharma, known as Manmohan Sharma, we call him MMS, born on 1st May 1937, is a living legend in the field of research in chemical engineering and technology in India. He is unquestionably the most noted and decorated chemical engineer India has ever produced. He obtained his bachelor's and master's degree in chemical engineering from the very famous UDCT, now known as ICT, in 1958 and 1960 respectively. He obtained his doctoral degree in chemical engineering from the prestigious Cambridge University in 1964. He joined University Department of Chemical Technology of the then Bombay University in 1964 as a full professor at the age of 27. And his first PhD student was out within 3 years of his date of joining, which is a record in itself. He subsequently worked as director of ICT, the first chemical engineering professor to do so from ICT. With inexpensive equipments and scant monetary support, he pursued his quality research based only on innovative and original creative ideas, and also encouraged his colleagues to do so. In the days when research in academic institution was almost non-existent and his research grants were scarce in India, he successfully converted ICT into a research institute of international repute. He remained director of ICT for 33 years, and it's under his stewardship ICT got the autonomy of UGC. Professor Sharma has made seminal contributions to chemical engineering, science and technology nationally and globally. His contributions to research in multi-phase reactions and reactors have opened up magnificent new vistas. His exposition of the role of fine particles, now called micro-nanophase, in enhancing mass transfer rates and making reactions more selective is just one example of the range of themes he has explored. He has received innumerable honors for his path-breaking research work, notable among them being the Fellow of Royal Society, first ever Indian engineer to do so. Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan. Padma Bhushan and Padma Vibhushan, Foreign Associate of US National Academy of Engineering, the Liverhorn Medal of the Royal Society, the SS Bhatnagar Prize in Engineering Sciences, International Fellow of Royal Academy of Engineering, Fellowship of the Third World Academy of Sciences, President of INSA, and I can go on and on and on and on. His contribution, he has continuous association with CSIR for the last 4 decades and more, and made countless contributions. We heard about him, in fact, from Professor Samir Brahmachari on the last CSIR Foundation Day. In fact, he takes pride that he is a teacher and used to teach even undergraduate classes till his retirement. He has practiced and proved that essential ingredients for the successful quality research are innovative ideas, strong motivation, commitment, passion, and capacity of hard work. We are immensely privileged, sir, to have here you on this occasion, and are eagerly waiting to listen to your address. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, we are honored to have such an eminent person of such caliber with us today. Let us lend our ears and open our hearts to his convocation address. May I now invite you, sir.
Dr. Raghunath Mashelkar, Chancellor, former DG CSIR, Professor Samir Brahmachari, members of Board of Governors, members of the Senate faculty, Professor Nagesh Iyer, Acting Director. Ramaswamy is not present today. He is associated with the CSIR, was associated with CSIR for a long time, and he is Vice Chairman of the Board of Governors. Professor K. Ray, Associate Director, fellow scientists and professors, academy professors, graduating MTechs and PhDs. I am delighted to be with you in this August gathering this afternoon on a momentous occasion of the 3rd convocation. As you are told, my own association with practically every CSIR laboratory is almost 40 years old. I visited most of the CSIR laboratories and have been associated in so many ways with CSIR that sometimes I am called a CSIR man, you know. The creation of the Academy ACA CSIR was a true landmark in the glorious history of the CSIR. I have been an ardent admirer of the CSIR with laboratories all over the country and having ushered areas from fathoming the oceans to tasting the rarefied air for aviation and space program. CSIR has made many valuable contributions to the scientific community at large and has assisted in the all-inclusive growth. I like to quote one typical example of how outstanding success in Mentha was realized out of the work from what was then RRL Jammu, then CIMAP, and India has become the leading producer of L-menthol by a big margin and earns very valuable foreign exchange. The cultivation of essential oils, even from locations like Jorhat, the Suri transmission for locomotives, the Swaraj tractor, civilian aircraft, buffalo milk powder, a variety of agrochemicals, pharmaceuticals, catalytic processes, and many more examples. These are some of the outstanding contributions. I can't be very comprehensive, but I just quoted some examples. I should like to congratulate the entire family of the CSIR for many outstanding contributions in the length and the breadth of the country. CSIR laboratories have had a long and meaningful association with universities. CSIR also ushered undergraduate and postgraduate courses along with the local universities. Right in Chennai, and almost very close to this location, we have the outstanding example of the CLRI for graduating a generation of outstanding leather technologists at BTech, MTech, and PhD levels with AC Tech, who have made by themselves contributions to the growth of this vital area, apart from the major contributions of the CLRI. Unfortunately, Dr. Ramaswamy is not here. He was a very major contributor in these endeavors. Not far from here in CECRI, Electrochemical Research Institute, where only one of its kind course in electrochemical engineering has been conducted with the local Alagappa University. Almost all the CSR laboratories have had GRFs and SRFs, and a large number of PhDs have come out with the association of the local and other universities. In view of the intensive and extensive work done by the CSIR laboratories over an impressive and very wide range of subjects, it was prudent to usher in the academy. It is a tribute to the CSIR for having got the parliamentary approval, which is really a unique event in India. And those who are graduate today should feel very proud that they have come out of a totally new organization like of which doesn't exist in India. You might remember that after universities we had IITs and we have ICERs, but CSIR stands on its own feet in a very, very unique way. In this connection, I should like to specifically mention the former DG who is with us on the dais, Professor Samir Brahmachari, who spearheaded this endeavor. And many of you may not be familiar that there was a fierce parliamentary debate, and it required different kinds of skills to get this academy through, because as somebody has remarked in the recent past, that opposition will oppose for the sake of opposing. So in the parliamentary democracy this happens. Academy, like in some universities, provides spiritual and unfettered freedom to pursue blue sky research, as the students are not oppressed by the management pressures. Innovations come through inventions, which in turn require a different atmosphere, as the genius prefers homogeneity of individuals rather than heterogeneity of groups. Innovations cannot be scheduled, as research itself is subjective, inspirational, and often irrational, and results are seldom known in advance. Many people don't seem to realize that research is a very different kind of activity, and unless you are doing repetitive things, research is an endeavor by itself. It's also a kind of a cultural activity. Technology is systematic orchestration of all knowledge and experience to lead to something practical and commercially useful. Technology is big C of capital and is an expensive equity. High level of expertise in basic sciences constitutes the bedrock for coming out with technological success. We ought to realize that quantum jump occurs through discontinuities and not through a linear path. Scientists and technologists in the ACSIR ought to work in this way and change fundamentals of business in their respective areas. I have always believed that in applied sciences, the application part enhances the rigors of fundamental work rather than detract it. It is essential to have publications in the learned journals and simultaneously demonstrate the utility in the marketplace. laboratories and ACSR should work together to see that high level of science is put to practical use. ACSR along with the CSR can orchestrate the strength of diverse sectors to come out with unique contributions of great scientific value and also of practical value. Let me illustrate this with some examples. Water is going to be a crucial issue, and recycling requires different kinds of scientific background and should receive our urgent attention. I was told just before we entered this auditorium that you buy water. There is no reason why you can't put an RO unit, that too with the help of another CSR laboratory, namely at Bhavnagar. What should be the rational use of water when 70% is going to agriculture? CSR has laboratories catering for just about every area of technology one can think of. A model for water harvesting and distribution can be a good topic for MTech and PhD projects. We need a lot of fundamental and applied work to valorize our coal ash, whose quantum before end of this decade will be of the order of, people may not believe, but it will be of the order of 1 million ton per day. Coal washeries give rejects which need to be upgraded. Red mud from alumina plants needs valorization, may be of use in even treating water. Valorization of rare earths, including cerium, lanthanum pigments, replacing toxic cadmium and lead pigments, making expensive iron oxide pigments require solid science base. Let me illustrate this with a very simple example. Although chemical formula of our iron oxide pigment may be same, from post office red, which may be as cheap as 8 to 10 rupees a kilo, to transparent iron oxide, micaceous iron oxide, the price may go to 120 rupees a kilo. So you can see for yourself what technology can achieve. It's a pity that in India we have very little expertise. We tried very hard to Nimitli program to enhance our capabilities in this area, but we have had very limited success. It's an area which is pregnant with all kinds of scientific and technological work. The energy sector needs major technology inputs. We have not given enough attention to the science and practice of combustion. In many areas, collaboration with universities, IITs, ISIS will be mutually beneficial. CSR has done commendable work on exploration of natural gas hydrates, what we call ice on fire, which seems to be widespread in coastal areas of India. However, a lot of scientific work is required to exploit this valuable resource in our hydrocarbon deficient country, which is taking away as much as $150 billion per annum of imports. You can see how badly we are affected because of import of hydrocarbons. We can acquire pioneering status in this area. Similarly, for unminable coal at depths of more than a kilometer, underground coal gasification requires major inputs. So far, our attempts have been at best somewhat feeble or little more than feeble. And I would urge CSR laboratories once again, along with ONGC or any other organization. Several years ago, I chaired an interministerial committee. We came to some level, but not sufficient to commercialize. Technology development is like a rowing exercise and not a relay race. We need to get over our cultural habits of going solo like in music. Somehow, culturally, in India, we have sitar player, sarod player, and only a tabalchi along with that. Orchestra came only with the Bollywood, and orchestra is uncommon. But here we have to orchestrate our strength. That's why I say it's a relay race, not a relay race, but a rowing exercise. India has become a major importer of edible oils, approaching almost 60% of our requirements, which means we are importing close to 10 million tons per annum of edible oil. We need to work in this vital area to improve yields. Let us take a leaf from the major success that North America had from adopting rapeseed to canola. But for this, the entire world would have suffered a lot for availability of edible oils. And this was not through genetic engineering. We haven't had any such success in India. We need to work very aggressively in this area because it's a pity that a country of our size, 60% of our edible oil requirement has to be imported. We have had a lot of talk in India about biodiesel, which has, in my judgment, and I'm willing to contest with anyone in the country, it has very little future. In India, none, worth the name. It's a very easy thing to get a lot of money for doing work in this area, but commercialization will be nearly impossible. Instead, we should valorize non-edible oils to high-value products. Many CSR laboratories have expertise in converting this into very value-added products. Let me take just one example to tell you how valorization is done. Castor oil, where India has become the leading producer in the world. Most of it is now used for value-added products from nylon 11 to ethoxylates and whatnot, including the classic old turkey red oil, but now done in continuous thin film reactors. So, CSR has the kind of capabilities, even in the global context, the kind no organization in the world can match. And your previous DG had often talked about the corporate character of CSR. I think you should really invoke that corporate character. Academy will provide a new avenue to do this. There has been also a lot of talk about algae for fuels. I am reminded of very early work of algae by CSMCRI Bhavnagar. But much more attractive would be to convert this into value-added products like omega-3 acids. Sometimes we try to ape the world because America says algae, algae, and biodiesel. The context is radically different. Again, it's very easy to get grants to do work on algae for fuel, but I have very serious doubt whether it will have any commercial application in terms of fuel, but for value-added products, very definitely so. CSR did some pioneering work, but much more needs to be done in this area. You will be surprised that even a very common item which India imports to the extent of maybe 30,000-40,000 tons a year, acid-activated clay for refining all edible oil. Even though work was initiated in this RRL Hyderabad, as it was called, we still don't have any technology where high science is involved in acid activation. It looks trivial, but I can tell you, I can assure you that it's very complicated, and we don't have any such technology. It's also very ripe to do fundamental work at MTech and PhD level. That is the reason why I'm making a reference. India has done very well in APIs for the pharma industry, as our backup on process chemistry has been very good. India counts in a big way in the global context, and we already have something like 7 pharma companies whose turnover is more than $1 billion per annum. But we need much more work, particularly adoption of continuous reactors in pharma industry. It's good to see NCL having microreactors, and we look forward to not only MTech, PhD-oriented work in these microreactors, but commercialization of some of the important APIs. But time is also ripe for much more intensified efforts in coming out with NCEs. We have had some interesting track record in the past. Let me remind you that long before it was fashionable, Hindustan Antibiotics had an antibiotic which they had invented. CDRI has invented some. But much more needs to be done because the global market is $1 trillion per annum, in excess, in fact, now. In many of these areas, multidisciplinary approach is required, and ACSR is ideally placed to orchestrate this strength from diverse sectors, and therefore they can easily take up this challenge. We are convinced that the economic status of a country is well linked to the output of PhDs per million population. This is, for instance, well illustrated by the chemical industry in Germany, where for the first time in the world, organized R&D was carried out in industry in 19th century. And majority of people who work in chemical industry in Germany are PhDs. At least 80%, 80 of the people who study chemistry end up as PhDs. No wonder why German chemical industry is so prosperous. ACSR ought to scale up output of PhDs. I was a little disappointed that from the academy only 5 have come out, but that's just because it's a beginning. I like to see this being scaled up because I have reasons to believe that in 4 to 5 years' time, ACSR might have output of 250 to 300 PhDs, and I hope they will work in that direction. Many more MTech courses can be organized. Impressive to see in very difficult areas MTechs being given, but the scope is much more, and the laboratories are ideally placed to take up these unconventional MTech courses, but of great value, scientific as well as practical, and none of the institutes in India, universities, have those MTech courses. In fact, I would even go to the extent away from the normal scientific part, for one of the CSR labs, at least within ACSR, to take up a course on technology-based economic forecasting. Why I say so? We are obsessed by the economists in this country. They keep on making forecasts about inflation, they keep on making forecasts about GDP. They don't seem to be right. Most of the time they are not right. And I'm reminded of the famous case of failure of Bank of Scotland, when Her Majesty, the Queen, wrote a letter to the Governor of the Bank of England as to how come economists couldn't forecast the collapse of in a very important banking organization. So you can see for yourself what technologists can do in terms of having a technology-based economic forecasting, because even Nobel laureates in economics have realized that minimum 50% of the growth is due to technology. I now wish the graduating MTechs and PhD a very bright future, but a gentle reminder to them that they owe something to their alma mater. So when they leave portals of the academy, they should remember that they got branded through the academy, and they must contribute in different ways as they rise in their own profession. I wish all the participants a very good time. I once again compliment CSIR to have ushered in Academy CSIR. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your inspiring address. Due to official commitments, DGCSIR could not join with us today for this function. I am sure his best wishes are with us. Our next speaker believes that the I in every individual Indian must stand for innovation. He is a scientist, administrator, technocrat, activist, and visionary all rolled into one. May I now invite one of the India's foremost technocrat, the Chancellor of ACSIR, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, to address the gathering.
Professor M.M. Sharma, the chief guest of our convocation today, and my guru, guide, friend, mentor, Dr. Samir Brahmachari, the very architect, as was rightly said, of this academy, a great visionary, a great thinker, a great doer. Dr. Nagesh Iyer, Dr. Kunal Ray, distinguished members of the Board of Governors who took all the trouble to come all the way to Chennai today, members of the Senate, distinguished faculty of ACSIR, proud graduates of the day, their proud parents, members of my CSIR family, and I emphasize my CSIR family because I retired 7 years ago, and I always said, once a CSIR, always a CSIR. So it's a big, big, big family. Wherever you are, in whatever time frame you are, very proud, very happy to be in this auditorium today after a long time. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, my hearty congratulations to all the graduates. This is a very special day in your life. It can't be repeated. You can get a higher degree. You can do something else, but this is an extraordinarily important day. I want to extend my very best wishes for a great, great future for you. You have a great future that is obvious to me. One, because you are graduates from ACSIR, a very unique institution, and also you are proud citizens of a great country, India. When I look at you, I can think of India 20 years, 30 years, 40 years down the line. You are going to build it. People like me will be gone, but it will be you who will be building it. And technology-led, innovation-led growth is going to be the key for our future. And that's what you are going to provide. You just had some wonderful advice from our chief guest, and I totally agree with him. We are very fortunate that we have Professor Brahmachari, Samir as I like to call him. ACSIR would not have been there but for him, by the way. But for his vision, but for his perseverance, his untiring energy, his thinking in terms of what is it that the academy can do, which is very different. And as Professor Sharma rightly said, the parliamentary processes are so complex. I can assure you, if I was the DG, I would not have been able to handle it. It was only Samir who could handle it and create this wonderful academy. So Samir, we are very proud. I'm very happy to announce that in the BOG meeting that we had today, we could not think of parting ways with our very founder, our very architect. And we wanted his guidance, his inspiration, all through ACSI's life. So the board today has taken a formal decision to appoint Professor Samir Brahmachari as chief mentor of our academy, ACSI. We are very fortunate, and I must emphasize this with our young people, that my very own guru, Professor M.M. Sharma, he is the chief guest. And rightly so. You know, we wanted Professor Yashpal to be here, but Professor Yashpal is close to 90 now, and he was not feeling well, so he had to drop out at the last moment. But it is a poetic justice in a way that Professor Sharma is here, because not only he has championed CSIR. If there is one person among 120 crore people in India who has championed CSIR all through his life, single-handedly, it is him, by the way. In good times, in bad times, he has been also critical, because I was DG of CSIR for 11.5 years, Director of National Chemical Laboratory for 6 years, and he would always advise me on what you can do better, how you can do better, but he always had our good at heart. ACSIR, its birth was not easy, by the way. Normally a baby is born in 9 months, right? It took 6 years for ACSIR to be born. Its conception was done in my time when I was DG of CSIR, by the way, where also Samir had played a great role in conceptualizing it. But it had to wait for a number of years before finally it got happened. And during that time, if there was one individual who backed us up solidly, in variety of roles, by the way, including the formal committee that UGC had set up to evaluate it, and later on putting up solid defense for ACSIR under certain special circumstances, he has played a great role. But what I want to tell you today is something different. Normally, as a chancellor, you are supposed to give an exhortation on what you should do, the good virtues, what you should become, etc., etc. And you can virtually predict what one will say. I'm not going to do that. I think the best thing for you to do will be to look at people like Professor Sharma, look at him, his life and work, and what is the inspiration you can draw from it. All right? So I'm going to summarize 4 or 5 things which you can draw as an inspiration from his life. I think the first is his total commitment. He could have been the Director General of CSIR. He could have been the Secretary of Department of Science and Technology. He could have been the Chairman of University Grants Commission, by the way. But none of this he wanted. He remained all through his life a simple academic professor. I have not seen many like this, by the way, in my lifetime. I can tell you that honestly. That is number one. So the message for you is you have to be totally committed to what you want to be, and not, may I say, flirt around from one thing to the other just because you get that 1,000 rupee extra or 5,000 rupees extra or those 1,000 shares extra. All right? Decide what you want to do, be committed, and move forward. That is one. The second part is that in India we always complain about lack of funds. We have a wonderful excuse, by the way, why we don't get Nobel Prizes and so on and so forth. We say, you know, I mean, where is the money, this, that, and the other. That is not the case, as a matter of fact. Things are based on ideas. Now, I remember I joined him as a student for doing my PhD after BKM. It was very fashionable to go abroad at that time, and I had some 4 or 5 fellowships to go abroad. I decided, I looked at him, He had just come in as a 27-year professor. He would walk with his hands in his pocket and teach us chemical engineering, thermodynamics, mass transfer, and so on and so forth. Incredible memory. He had a tremendous influence on my mind. And I said, where can I get a better guru? And I joined him. And I will do it again. And I will do it again and again, by the way. As Hindus, we believe in rebirth, isn't it? If rebirth is taken, I only hope he will accept me as a student in his next birth. And I remember we hardly had any money. You know, the contingency sum was something like 10,000 rupees in a year. And in that we did research which led us to top international publications, making sort of a big difference. And while doing that, he always used to tell us it is the power of the ideas that matters. It is not the power of the budget that matters. And therefore, when we have this excuse on not getting Nobel Prizes because we don't have money, I'm sorry, I don't agree with it. You remember the graphene Nobel Prize? You remember the simple experiment that young postdoc in his mid-30s do? He took a scotch tape, put graphite on it, put another scotch tape, folded it, unfolded it, large number of times till graphene. You remember how it was formed, basically? How much does the scotch tape and graphite piece cost? 20 rupees? It didn't require billions of dollars. Now, each one of us can be given a scotch tape and a graphite, but what will you do with it? So it is what you do with what you have that leads finally to breakthroughs. So remember, when you move forward in your life, no excuses, basically. Get this message of the power of ideas from Professor Sharma. All right, that is very, very important. Ideas are going to win you finally everything. I mean, what was Hotmail? Hotmail was just an idea, isn't it? And it was sold for $500 million, basically, at the end of the day. So power of ideas is very important. And for that, you have to decide that I am going to be the first in the world, not first in India. That is our problem, basically. Bulk of the time, we have done reverse engineering, copying, imitating, and so on and so forth. No. The I in India, I always say, has to stand for innovation, not imitation, not inhibition. That's what you should remember. That's the third lesson from his life. The fourth lesson from his life is ethics. Utter honesty and ethics. All right? He was very young. Must have had some 7-8 papers to his credit, by the way, research papers. In late 20s, how many papers do you have? All right? And I remember my first paper with him was Sharma and Mashelkar. He was the first author, I was the second author. My second paper with him was Mashelkar and Sharma. I was the first author, he was the second author. And my third paper was Mashelkar alone. He refused to put his name on a paper, by the way, saying that it's your idea, you publish it. And his was the only CV that I have seen, by the way, Professor Banerjee, which has an annexure which says the papers published independently by my PhD students while they worked under me. That utter honesty, that it is your students' idea, that ethics, so as to say, that great moral fabric is what you have to remember, not just in terms of research publication that you do, but many different temptations that you will have in your life over a period of time as we sort of move forward. So the values, I think what I learned most from him were those basic values. So I think all that you have to do is that I don't want to give you a big exhortation. I want you to look at the great man that is sitting on the dais. We have had very few like this in India. I have been very fortunate that he has been my guru, and he continues to be one to sort of inspire me and learn from him based on these values that I talked about. Going forward, I have absolutely no doubt, sir, that not only will produce 200, 300 PhDs, 400 to 500 is our target, and we can easily do that. Today we have 2,500 students registered already. Divided by 5, you come to 500 anyway. But we want to be the best in the world. I don't believe in this idea of being one of the best. I don't believe in best practices. You are copying them when you say best practice. I believe in next practices. I want our academy to set the next practices in research, in teaching, in learning, in education, and that's why half the time of the board today, after getting rid of the routine agenda, was how do we improve the quality and become the best? Am I right, Ashish? This is exactly what we discussed. Now that's what we have to be, and that cannot be unless we have the highest quality of students, doing highest quality of research, we have highest quality of supervisors, we have highest quality of faculty, and we choose the toughest problems. Not incremental, which are playing safe, all right? But picking a problem where if you solve it, it makes a big difference. You know, many times, a lot of research in India, when it is published, people say, so what? Whatever comes from the academy, our academy, nobody should be able to say, so what? People should be able to say, this is game-changing, this is different. And in the space of engineering in particular, I think this was a great initiative that was taken by Samir in terms of advancing our research frontiers in engineering laboratories. Dr. Chandrasekhar, what a difference we have made today. I think you are living examples of that, and I think we have to lead. See what happens, I'll tell you, as one gets older, one gets worried about this. If you look at the McKinsey report, which talks about the disruptive technologies which will make a difference to a $25 trillion plus industry by 2025, what are those? They are mobile internet, they are automated knowledge work, they are Internet of Things like sensors and actuators, they are autonomous vehicles, advanced robotics, advanced materials, of course, next-gen genomics, 3D printing, etc., isn't it? Now, Dr. Chandrasekhar, if we have to stand and say which of these were the ones, which got originated in India, all right, and where we created the frontiers ourselves. Not after the frontiers were created, we went and sort of worked on them. That's what we always do. I think it is extremely important that we have to be at the cutting edge, at the leading edge, and we must do science and engineering that leads and not follows. The final point I would like to make before I close, I always say that there is no limit to human imagination. There is no limit to human achievement, excepting the limits that you put on yourself. So my only advice to you will be, go limitless, go boundaryless. Keep an open mind. They say that parachute works best when it is open. Mind is also like that. It works best when it is open. And if you do that, you will find the horizons for you are infinite. So I wish you well for a great future. You will do ACSR proud. You will do my India, our India proud. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your encouraging words. On behalf of ACSIR students, I assure you that we will strive hard to meet the high standards set for ACSIR. May I now invite the man instrumental in the creation of ACSIR and now our chief mentor, Professor Samir K. Brahmachari, to address the gathering.
Legendary Professor M.M. Sharma, one and only one, Dr. Mashelkar, Professor Ashish Datta, Shuru Banerjee, my colleagues Nagesh Iyer, Chandrasekhar, Kunal Roy, the members of the BOG, deans, associate deans, members of my CSIR and ACSIR family. It's a little funny that I have to speak after Dr. Mashelkar, because normally the Chancellor's lecture is the last. Am I right? But ACSIR breaks protocol, makes changes, and it has to be disruptive and innovative. One guru is enough, but having multiple guru in the audience is tough. And I can sympathize my situation when M.M. Sharma and Mashelkar both present. I can sympathize the situation of Dr. Nagesh Iyer and to handle simultaneously so many people, at least 2 ex-DG simultaneously present in one campus hasn't happened that often, I think. So therefore, today is a very, very auspicious day and interesting day. You know, I was just told that the Academy has decided to ask me to be the chief mentor. So I was thinking, who are the chief mentor? It reminded me of Dr. Narayan Murthy, who took retirement and decided to be chief mentor of Infosys. But unfortunately, he had to be called back. I hope the chief mentor will not be called back to do the batting. Creating something new is interesting, but sometimes it is difficult. But maintaining it is more difficult. And take it to the logical conclusion on the which dream this was built is the hardest journey. I believe you all must have a dream. You have come to this campus, you have taken a different route to come to a CSIR, which has a unique program of 4-credit course where you have to do something to do with the rural India, part of the CSIR 800 program. Since you finish your MTech and go over to the PhD, I'm sure you will realize that this is a compulsory part of the course. One side is course, another side is actual getting involvement. What is my learning is that I wish I had a chance to meet Dr. M.M. Sharma when I was as young as you. It is not few minutes of his talk or few minutes of his introduction. I think you should study, understand what a scientific engineer or industrially interested scientist should be and what should be the model. And Dr. M.M. Sharma, according to me, stands out as a model, although not reflected so strongly into the scientific community as it should have been. This is my complaint against him. I believe when you are young, you have the right to dream. Because academy's job is to educate you. But as Vivekananda said, education is the manifestation of perfection already in man or human. That time there was so much gender sensitiveness, so he could get away by saying man. I have changed it to human, that's why. So what does it mean? That we have the perfection, we need to nurture it, we need to remove our ignorance as piles of the onions, and as we remove those, the inner core comes out and you become a perfect person. Now, how do you define a perfect person? If you go back to various religion and spirituality, you will realize that everywhere, whether it is Ramakrishna Paramahansadev or it is even in Islam, a part of your earning or your wealth, you part for others. So I thought today I will tell all of you as an ACSR student, make sure that you make 4 marshals. You divide your time into 1 quarters and dedicate 1 quarter of your awake full time, maybe 16 hours, for others. The rest 3/4 is for yourself, building your character, your personality, your career, your building, and dedicate 1/4 of the time for others. Same way, I will suggest that we all sit and discuss in the street corner, and especially the election time, we find fault with everybody. Our whole time, passing time is, this should have been done, Indian science should have been this, that should have been that, the road should have been clean, this should have been, everybody is criticizing everybody else, and we spend hours and hours on it. I suggest that 1/4 of the time you actually do things that you can make a difference. And that should be your take-home message today. That you go back with a feeling that how can I part a small amount of my wealth I create, the earning I have, for the benefit of others who are less fortunate than us. I think if our education system does not bring in sensitivity, then ACSR will be a failure. I believe the MIT is MIT because it's created Road 128. Nobody is poor around MIT. If you take the wealth created by MIT, will be one of the highest, far larger than many countries, total wealth. Whereas all our IITs, however pride we might take in them, the students have done well, IITs have done well, but people around the IITs, their life hasn't changed, whether it is Kharagpur IIT or Kanpur IIT, if you go from the station to the IIT. If ACSIR to be a different, then CSIR road, you have to make sure is prosperous. When ACSIR walks, it is different. To start with, my suggestion will be that you create a Facebook of the CSIR alumni. Whoever has a CSIR degree, create a Facebook. So that ACSIR doesn't have to be built from the top. It is not the administrator's responsibility to make sure that you are connected. It is your responsibility to make sure that you are connected. So own all the responsibility to yourself. As Dr. Mashelkar said, you worry about the country, then you worry about owning the responsibility of all the failures of the country. If science of India is not doing well, you owe the responsibility. As you know, there are brilliant experiments are being done to blind to see. I think Japan spent several billions of dollars in Helix Institute to create the project A Blind to See. But some young people has just used a prototype with a now new, very new technology by sensors and nanomaterials with eye camera, with a spec camera, actually making blind to see. People are developing pen, which will autocorrect the spelling. The moment you make a mistake in spelling, it will vibrate and tell you there's a mistake. People are developing car which will drive without a driver. Google car. Every time last 3 months, after stepping down as a DG, I got lots of time to watch television and TED Talks and going through internet and spending time. And when I see Tech Guru, every time I ask myself, why none of these innovations are done by any Indian? And the last one, which saddened me most, was when WhatsApp, an organization of 50 people, 5 years back did not get job in Facebook. In less than 5,000 square feet space, they created wealth of 1,20,000 crores, $19-20 billion. It could have been done at Chennai. It could have been done in the tidal wave. It could have happened in the Bangalore International IT Park, but it hasn't happened. It could have happened in Bengal Intelligence Building in Calcutta, but did it happen? So, we are not smart enough. We are not clever enough. So how can we make this difference? I believe ACSIR should set its decision. Unless every project, you must strive to be innovative. Take, as Dr. Mashelkar said, the highest possible risk-taking projects and make a difference. When ACSIR was built in the parliament, everybody asked, why are you not taking money? I said ACSIR will be so wealthy that it will give money and it will run schools from its money. Because you will create such innovations, such disruptive discoveries, which will create so much of wealth. So I have a special request that can we build a workforce, and all of you, those who have finished your MTech and going up for PhD and will be placed in various institutions of CSIR, and those who are not here, can you get them connected and set a standard and say, anything which I need to are incremental, we just don't do. We need to do things what are difficult and challenging, and how can we do? I also want this group to decide a small amount of money, they put it to the ACSIR account. And with that account, I request ACSIR to make sure that wherever there is ACSIR, there is no single child remains uneducated. Whether you're maid-servant children, whether you're sweeper's child, whether you're security forces child. And I request that the ACSIR Chancellor to provide that provision of collecting the money. I believe all of us, all of you, by donating that little, we can create a whole new concept of crowdfunding. As Dr. Mashelkar talked about the technologies, and you must remember, tomorrow's technology is crowdfunding. If you have an idea, you will not go to an angel funder. You will not run from pillar to post of directors. You will go crowdfund. If your idea is good, there will be people to pay for it. So we will start that with a good idea that ACSIR is like Porosh Pathar, it's like a magnet. Wherever it touches, it transforms. No child around you should remain uneducated. And then you are what Vivekananda says, education is the manifestation of the perfection already in human. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The mission of the Academy is to create highest quality personnel with cross-disciplinary knowledge, aiming to provide leaders in the field of science and technology. It is possible not only because of the students, greatly because of the outstanding academicians. It is our honor and great privilege in felicitating them today. I now request the Director of ACSIR to read out the citations for conferment of Academy Professorship of ACSIR to eminent academicians.
I would like to read the citation of Academy Professorship to Professor Manmohan Sharma, FRS. It is a special privilege and an honor to confer the Academy Professorship on Professor Manmohan Sharma for his legendary contributions in the field of chemical engineering and technology. His pioneering research contributions in mass transfer with chemical reaction have been globally recognized for their pioneering nature. The role of microphases in multiple reactions is just one such example. He is highly respected for his high ethical values, principled stance, integrity, and his commitment to his profession and nation. The Indian chemical industry has benefited immensely from his incredible thought leadership and his bold vision. Professor Sharma is an inspirational leader in establishing educational programs and creating an environment blending science and technology that motivated nascent talents to bloom as great leaders both in science and industry. He has made immense contribution to CSIR over the last 4 decades in many different roles, and CSIR feels truly beholden to him for being its most committed guide, mentor, friend and philosopher. Signed, Chairman, Board of Governors, Professor R.A. Mashelkar. The next Academy Professorship is being given to Professor Samir K. Brahmachari. I'll read the citation. The Academy Professorship is being conferred on Professor Samir K. Brahmachari in recognition of his pioneering contributions to the promotion of research and studies on functional genomics in India, and also for his outstanding leadership culminating to the establishment of the Academy of Scientific and Innovative Research, that is ACSIR. The Academy also recognizes his path-breaking concept of open source drug discovery, OSDD, a CSIR-led team India consortium with global partnership. As the director of the CSIR's erstwhile Center of Biochemical Technology, he transformed it as the CSIR Institute of Genomics and Integrative Biology, an institute where genomics and informatics have been seamlessly integrated. He has set up great examples of path-breaking discoveries in his own research. He has a passion for mentoring and grooming young and bright minds to bloom into successful scientists with sensitivity towards societal needs. He is a science leader with an exceptionally creative mind whose bold initiatives have been ahead of time. Signed, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, Chairman, Board of Governors. I'm reading this citation for Professor Rodam Narasimha, FRS, who is not here, but we will be handing it over to him. The citation is, "It's a great pleasure and privilege to confer the title of Academy Professorship on Professor Rodam Narasimha, India's foremost aerospace scientist and a world-renowned fluid dynamicist, for his seminal research contributions. He initiated country's first research programs, major research programs in parallel computing, advanced composite structures, and modern flight control systems. He masterminded the first civil transport aircraft of the country through a 14-passenger multi-role aircraft, heralding the dawn of Indian civilian aircraft industry. His long-standing role as a member of India's National Security Advisory Board and his leadership in the creation of India's Earth Commission is well recognized. As director of CSIR, NAL, that is National Aerospace Laboratories, he initiated major technological programs providing an inspiring leadership. He is globally decorated with all the top accolades that an engineering scientist can ever win. Signed, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, Chairman, Board of Governors." This will be handed over to him in Bangalore. Last but not the least, this academic professorship is to Professor C.N.R. Rao, FRS. It is a great pleasure and honor to confer academic professorship on Bharat Ratna recipient Professor C.N.R. Rao for his legendary contributions in the field of chemical science and his inspirational science leadership for the nation for over 5 decades. He is world's foremost solid-state and material chemist. He is a leader of leaders. As chairman of Scientific Advisory Council to the Prime Minister for over 3 decades, he has shaped the destiny of science in India. He is an institution builder par excellence. Institutions like the Center for Excellence in Chemistry, New Chemistry Unit, International Center for Material Science, and Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research being just some examples. The testament of his incredible scientific scholarship is scripted through 1,500 research papers and 45 books. He is the most decorated scientist of India with unparalleled global recognitions. The future generations will find it hard to believe that such colossal achievements such as his could be made in a single lifetime by anyone. Signed, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, Chairman, Board of Governors. This will be delivered to him in Bangalore.
Thank you, sir. May I now invite Professor Kunal Ray to deliver the vote of thanks.
It is my great privilege to express our gratitude to Professor M.M. Sharma on behalf of ACSIR to have kindly accepted our invitation to be the chief guest in the convocation and delivering an inspiring lecture to our students. We are also proud that Professor Sharma has accepted the academic professorship of ACSIR, the highest honor bestowed by this academy. As a token of our appreciation, may I now request our Chancellor to present a memento to our chief guest, please. To continue, I would say that we are grateful to the Chancellor of ACSIR, Professor R.A. Mashelkar, for his continued support and guidance through our journey to scale greater heights under his able leadership. We are thankful to Professor C.N.R. Rao, Professor Rodam Narasimha, and Professor Samir Brahmachari for accepting the honor of being academic professor of ACSIR. As has been said before, I'll say again that I must add that Professor Brahmachari holds a special place in our heart for being the main architect of this academy that aspires to help realize the dream of so many talented students. Thank you, sir. I express my gratitude to all the special invitees The members of Board of Governors present here, Professor Ashish Datta, Professor Surabhi Banerjee, Professor Chandrasekhar, also graduate students and their parents for attending the convocation. It is very important that I acknowledge the rightful credit deserved by the ACSR faculties, the lab coordinators, the deans, the associate deans, directors of CSR labs, the members of the Senate, whose untiring effort culminates to high quality education imparted by ACSR. I must thank the CSR staff of this campus for the excellent arrangements, including audiovisual facility, webcasting of the program, horticultural facility, and logistics related to conducting the program in the auditorium. In short, all the involved CSR and ACSR staffs who made this function a seamless event by their hard work deserves appreciation for their effort. I thank those watching the ceremony in remote location through webcast, and here our friends from the media for covering the event appropriately. Last but not the least, of course, I thank my colleague and friend, Professor Nagesh Iyer, the acting director, for playing a pivotal role for this grand academic event. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir. I now request the Chancellor to declare that the convocation is closed.
I declare this convocation closed.
Thank you, sir. That brings us to the end of today's function. I once again congratulate all the graduates and wish you all success in your future endeavors. I also thank each and everyone present here and watching through the webcast for joining with us today. I request all the graduates to come onto the stage for group photo. Before that, please rise for national anthem.
अधिनायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल गंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जाहे तव शुभ आशीष माहे गागे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगलदायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
Okay.